Chuck D is the leader of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Public Enemy, is a member of the rock supergroup Prophets of Rage. He is an artist. He is a diarist. I've read a few of his books. His new one is called, and this is, I'm not mispronouncing it, Interracial Art Intelligence. See what he did there. Hey, Chuck D, welcome to The Gist. Thanks for coming on.
Good to be here, Mike. Thank you.
What does visual art do for you?
It's expression. It's damn near like therapy. Um, they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I think in this day and time with so much going on around us, sometimes rather than talk it out, I do an illustration, do it very quick. It's a little takeoff from back in the newspaper days where there was a daily political cartoon.
Yeah.
And I would just get the point across real quick about what I thought, and that's what it means to me. It's like boom, get it out, and let people come to their own interpretation. They're gonna ask you anyway, even if you put it in words, because I'm cryptic, Mike, and I use the Bill Russell quote a lot. Bill Russell, the great center for the Boston Celtics. It's easier to be, yeah, it's easier to understand than to be understood. So. Um, Lately I just been able to just the last couple of years through the uses of social media where you're able to get that immediate response, put up something, an image, do it in Al Hirschfield type speed and line, and get the point across. And it saves me from using a lot of words like I'm doing, answering that long ass with my long ass answer for your short
Do you
question.
hide the word Nina or some version of it in your drawings? Did I miss that?
Nah, not
Not
yet,
you're not that
not
level of
yet.
Hirschfeld.
Nah.
Do you?
No, no, I really want to be, each illustration that I've done, and I've done over like 50,000 since 2016. Um, I'm lazy because I'm really supposed to put a small PE target. I do it afterwards, but it'd be good to start to do it alongside when I finish the work that minute or that day.
You've always been oriented towards the visual, and if people remember Public Enemy from back in the day, there were the S1Ws, Security of the First World, with those fake machine guns on the stage, and of course the clocks and the branding and the P. That was important to you, so it doesn't surprise me that you have a visual orientation to this day.
Yeah, we had to do that because we wasn't going to get any video played on MTV. Number one, we wasn't going to get any video made in 1987 and 1988 because our budgets couldn't match up with what had to be required for visual, um I guess motion visual uh, appearance. So imagery, just like you read in a comic book, the illustrations are so important. So the imagery was very important. So you could look at it and then bask in your own mind what we tried to convey and get across. So that was the key to Public Enemy, that it was very visual so it could start to work on your imagination.
Right.
Because I mean, really, back then, all the record was is like a audio file coming through, a lot of words and music, and you didn't get the visuals weren't going to be something that you was going to have alongside the words and music.
But hip
Not then.
but hip hop was always very visual. Maybe I mean every genre, right, has imagery associated with it. But hip hop always seemed to me to be all encompassing of all the arts. So dance was an important part, and the visual was an
Yes.
important part, and graffiti. And it wasn't ancillary, it was as much a part of hip hop as what you were doing or what your DJ was doing.
Yeah, Michael, what music is today is sight, sound, story, and style. And those four components make up, the what we call music today, where back in that 80s and 70s and before that, music was something that you heard.
Yes.
It wasn't something that you saw. Um, it could have been something that you experienced or danced to, but the style and the story and the music was something that was on the outside. It wasn't embedded into it necessarily. So when people went out to get music in the 40s, 50s, before that, 60s, 70s, you went out to pick up an audio file, and then you had to use your imagination. And it helped if you was able to have somebody come across and invite you to their TV show where you could perform that song, Hullabaloo, or
Right.
American Bandstand, or in our cases, Soul Train.
So early on, I've heard you talk about your musical influences and Melly Mel and Grandmaster Flash, but what about your visual influences? Maybe even your musical visual influences. What acts did you look at and say, that's either the way I want to look or what they're doing is something I want to emulate?
Well, my eyes were always open because I've been sort of like wanting to be an illustrator ever since I was like 2 years old. I don't know. It might have been in the genes. It might have been encouraged. My grandfather liked to draw a lot. And my great grandfather, who I never met, who died in 1923, he was like the second licensed black architect in New Jersey. And it's reputed that he helped design, many churches in New
This was
York. And he
George
was on the,
Washington Foster was his name. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean,
So it's in the genes.
yeah, but it was like it was folklore. It wasn't nothing you could look up.
Right,
You know what
right.
I'm saying? Like today, you could look up. Back then, it was like told to you, and it was a fleeting moment, especially growing up. So, I mean, my eyes were always open. In the '60s was an exciting time to be a comic book fan because as Marvel was finding their stride with, their superheroes, Hulk, Spider-Man, who lived in New York City coincidentally. uh, Submariner, Thor, Captain America. It was a good time to go pick up a comic book and read it, which helped my reading. But also, a lot of kids around me also wanted to emulate making comic books. So I think that went hand in hand easy. I didn't have the discipline to keep on doing comic books, but I liked to draw a lot all the time. It was expression, and so later on, just when I got into music, um, which was as a teenager, only because of hip hop, I put two and two together. My art interests, acumen, and I combined it with music, and then hip hop started. So then doing flyers in Long Island became my first foray into my works being seen by more than one person via printing.
And Public Enemy was like one of those great comic book teams, right? Fantastic Four, the Avenger.
Mm,
It wasn't just you as a solo artist. There was Flavor Flav and there was Terminator X. Tell me
mm,
about
yeah.
the clock. Was that a Flavor Flav thing? Did he invent that or take that from someone? The huge clock.
Well, Mike, in 1986, a lot of kids were wearing clocks at that time. We used to throw a lot of parties and events. We helmed the radio station WBAU for many years, for about a 4 or 5 year period up to then, in Spectrum City, which was the mobile DJ unit that myself and a lot of things surrounded, as well as uh, Dr. Andre Brown's original concept, which was called The Concept, and we would call Spectrum. We do a lot of events for kids in, Hempstead and Roosevelt and Rockville Center, Freeport, all the Westbury, all the
Baldwin, my
Nassau
hometown.
County
Baldwin. Were you in
kids.
Baldwin?
Well, Baldwin's part of the whole Uniondale,
Right.
Roosevelt, Oceanside, Long Beach, a combination. We did a lot of parties in Long Beach. So with that, we imagery was able to, work through the flyers, and the clocks was something that Sports Illustrated had for that was giving away. Sports Illustrated were giving away, like for subscription, they would give away these little stopwatches. And at that time, kids couldn't afford the gold chains, and it wasn't healthy to have a gold chain, and because you get jumped or snatched. So kids, they make up their own styles. And this particular year, 1986, they were wearing the Sports Illustrated stopwatches, you know. So they would watch it around their neck and style it, and that became a style. And so we wore those in our first photos. And then one day, one of the artists later on to be named Son of Berserk came in from a store that you might be familiar with, a store in Westbury called Fortunars.
Yeah, I
And
know it. I
Fortunars
think my
had
parents just
these
sold their dinette set they got there in 1972.
exactly Long Island store, and they were selling these bath clocks. And these bath clocks were, you know what time it is when you're taking a shower or whatever, and you can hang it in the bath. It was waterproof. And he brought one in, and I looked at it, and Flavor looked at it. I said, "That's good." Well, they look like little gold ropes, but there wasn't gold ropes. It was real ropes with a clock. And we both decided to wear the clocks to let people know what time it
Yeah,
is, because that was a saying for, saying, "Hey, listen, are you aware of what's going on?
right.
Do you know what's happening? Are you hip?
Well, that was my question. What
This
came
is what
first, the
time it
clocks
is."
or the phrase, or even the song? What's the time? It's time to get ill.
Nah, the saying came, and the style, I guess, rode
Right.
along with it.
And then
So,
if, because of
yeah,
Sports Illustrated putting out these clocks, are you telling me if it was a few years later, you'd have been wearing sneaker phones around your neck?
no, it had to make sense, and it had to be cool. And, Long Island kids are cool, and they came from all boroughs, their backgrounds. So you wasn't corny being on Long Island because you would get checked very quickly.
Hmm.
A Brooklyn thing remained a Brooklyn thing. A Bronx thing was a Bronx thing. A Harlem thing was a Harlem thing. Queens thing was a Queens thing. But a Long Island thing was all of the above.
Yeah. Did you name it Strong Island? Was that you?
Strong Island, the moniker came from answering phones, which was a thing to get dedications up at WBAU. And on the Mr. Bill
Yeah,
show,
that's 90,
somebody named Nick.
90.3. This is the Adelphi radio station, WBAU. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that no longer
No.
exists. I know the phone number 516-747-4757. But the bottom line on that, this guy called up one of the dedication. He says, "I want to hear da 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 song, whatever it was." And I said, "Okay, what's your name?" "Nick from Strong Island." And once he told me that, I wrote it down and kept it. So whoever Nick is, that day he called in asking for that record and said he was from Strong Island. That's the first time I heard it, and then most people heard it from me using it on records.
Did you think of it as, well, you were a diarist back then. So did you think of it as a potential lyric? Is that the kind of writer you were, just writing down scraps for future ideas?
Yeah, I was always writing and writing next to an illustration or something like that, but it wasn't never here. I'm writing a full song, because what am I writing a full song for? The songs that later on that that I did for WBAU they were radio station promos, because we wanted to be radio jocks. We wanted to do syndicated radio for hip hop and rap, and really treat and curate hip hop and rap music right. So um I had no aspirations to be a recording artist, although I could. But you know, what thrill is it to be a recording artist when your job is to take 25 records a week and try to like what? Okay, making one record. I got 25 records this week. I mean, records were a task to take and file and play and figure out where to fit in. So one record was no big deal unless we were able to come with a real serious world of our own. And that's how that
Oh,
started.
yeah. So I know some of your earlier lyrics. You talk about how the radio was scared of you, and that was definitely true. If it wasn't your student radio station, you were just talking about how MTV wouldn't play you. And did that hurt?
Well, when we used us, it's like we basically said what they're afraid of is dealing with rap music right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't necessarily us. It was like, you don't want to play rap music. So later on, it's funny, Mike, I would say this briefly, like we boycotted the Grammys because they didn't have a rap category.
Right.
So when we said who gives a F about a goddamn Grammy, um, it was because they didn't care about the rap category. And when Will Smith, when Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince won, the gloves were off because you guys finally acknowledged our genre. So a lot of things we said were basically beating up the opposition, not per se for us, but for the thing that we was enveloped by.
Do you think that track moved the Grammys at all? Do you think it had an effect on the Grammys?
No.
No. But you're supposed to say,
Terminator X to the Edge of Panic. Yeah, we said it. We think people and aficionados of us understood it, but I think it was just a combination of a whole bunch of movements and efforts that made the Grammys understand that we were all coming. Yeah.
when I consider your writing style in the new book, it seems, I don't know how considered it is. It seems to be you put the words down as they come. What about your lyric style? Were you the kind of, and it's not just rappers like this, a lot of comedians quote right on stage. Did you freestyle and then get the lyrics from there, or did you think about the lyrics, write them down in a book and then or on the page and then rap from what you had written down?
When I was young in my 20s, they were pieced together, but usually when it came down to okay, you got to write a song and you got to go record, you got to really seriously get busy. I had to organize it, and I usually would come up with a title and write from the title down.
Mm,
It became easier, it's like architecture, you're building a building, but you're not building it from sticks and bricks from the bottom. You're building out a skeleton, a Sullivan style. You're really skeletoning the building out, and then you're filling it in.
yeah.
And that's how I became a songwriter that could write quickly, but also make sure that your song doesn't step on the toes of the other songs you wrote. You don't cover the same ground twice, which like you're freestyling. Freestyling to me was just like having no plan. You could get away with it a couple times, but if you're trying to make an album, no
Now,
good.
did Flava Flav freestyle? Because he seemed he was more of the id in the group, right? You were the super ego.
Yeah, I mean, he did whatever, and he was a component that if you looked at food, if I was the burger, he's the A1
Uh huh.
sauce.
Yeah, or
So
if you were MJ, he was Rodman, or if you were Ewing, he was Starks.
yeah,
And
you
sometimes
could
he'd
look
go
at it
one
that
for
way.
17. That's the chance you take.
Yeah, 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 exactly. If you had to put it in the basketball vernacular, it's like it's funny because I remember the time we played in Florida and I had Dennis Rodman and Flavor Flav in the same dressing room, and Dennis came to visit us. Since I'm looking at the Flavor Flav of the NBA Basketball Hall of Fame, and I'm looking at Flavor, and I'm looking, damn, wish I could get a snapshot of this.
But this is why the diary's good. I mean, the my listeners should know what it basically is your associations, your interactions with some of the most famous, influential, and important people that you've met along the way. So, other than Barack Obama, who you haven't met yet, I think everyone's there.
No. Well, no, actually, that came up out of a thing of had this been done before? I don't think so. Um, I, I have a visual, picture in my mind of the moment that I might have met somebody, and I said, I could actually illustrate what I have in my mind about that moment and maybe write it out. Now, my style is basically something that works like a scar on the body. I write in a kinetic accident style, and I try not to affect, and that's me lashing out against to the perfection of AI or the perfection of people when a lot of artists want to somehow outdo a photo. And and to me, art is your signature, it's your pulse, and you want to hold on to your mistakes instead of that, you try to copy something that you see. It's a great exercise when you're a kid, but later on you need the signature. So I would tell people, I said, well, you know what? When you see something, artists that ask me advice, look at something and then look away and draw it. because then your memory is going to be an interpretation of it as opposed to trying to outdo an iPhone
Right. Trust your
or
memory.
trying to out.
Trust your memory.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
reason it's
Well,
in your memory, right? There's a reason that what's seared in your memory, it might not be a photograph, but for some reason it became the most important thing to however the mind works at that time.
yes, sir. And going to Delphi for 6 years, I think I had some of the best teachers, best professors that allowed you to know the notes, hit the notes, but then that really allows you to get off the notes like Thelonious Monk. You know what I'm saying? So I'm monk light in my illustrations where if I'm doing a what I've seen or imagined or something in front of me, I might make that line go that way instead of that way, just because it's for the fuck of it. And the same thing goes in the cryptic expression path of a lyric I might make that people will be like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, if you catch it before and you catch it way later, it'll bridge itself into something that makes a statement that makes some sense. But it might not come in that bar. The same thing in the illustration. It might not make sense, in that little area that you might crop of the image,
Right.
but it all will make sense when it all comes together. And if it doesn't, so the fuck what?
Right. It's not abstract,
So
but what you're saying is it has the impact that it has isn't necessarily the text right in front of you. It's the resonances of what you're writing down in lyrics or in art.
it's not really looking for any approval.
Yeah.
And I think you got to know like what made cubism exist in the first place. It was Picasso and his folks really rebelling against the camera at the time. Because if a camera is going to capture something, why are you trying to be an impressionist or a realist? It's a great workout, but an iPhone is an incredible tool, and they got filters out there that could break down to give you, a Monet style in a matter of seconds. So, as an artist, what's your standout? How do you stand out? What's your signature? Where's your scar? You know what I'm saying? So, and this was happened to be a story in official art intelligence, which once again, it's a it's a word that's doesn't exist. Interficial art intelligence. I created a word. I had the nerve to create the word, and I had the nerve to create the style and the line. But I'm giving you an actuality of what happened, and through my eyes and through my brain of what I saw.
Yeah.
And some of the things will line up, and some of the things, so it's sort of like a mystic, journey. And really, it's funny, Mike. The further I go, I'm not planning on making a part two, but now I'm coming up with like 100 different instances of like, wow, well, I didn't meet President Obama, but I was at an event where he was right in the balcony giving me a thumbs up with First Lady Michelle on a speech I gave, so I could draw that for how I saw him up there in the balcony. And then what I just told you about Dennis Rodman and Flavor, I saw that, so I could give that mind illustration as well. So now, damn, the only thing I could do is just like kind of write the note and keep the notes, and then later on it might be a book. But the moments that met me is probably my next to last illustrated book for a while, because we're getting into other books. But then again, who am I to say? Because I'm drawing every day, and it's 50,000 illustrations. So you know the so it gives its own narration,
So
Mike.
this is interficial art intelligence. The last one, did you refer to the genre as, am I getting this right? Naphic grovels? Was that something you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Naphtha
Okay, so
grovels.
this is
A lot of people are in the graphic
yeah.
novels, which is cute, but this is something where each page is kind of its own definition and defines itself.
So in terms of
And
words, right? This is called chiasmus, right? Where you interpose the first letters of different words. It could use with phrases like we shouldn't be.
well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for teaching me that
I
moment.
have to be honest. I don't know if the CH in chiasmus is pronounced with a hard C like in Italian or chiasmus, but you take it however you want. But I had a question
What
about this.
the CH? You said CH
Chiasmus, chiasmus, or maybe chiasmus. So, you know,
or Chuckosmus?
the JFK, what your country could do for you, what you could do for your country. We shouldn't be sending our kids to the state pen. We should be sending them to Penn State. Those are, not just
Yeah,
letters, but whole words, but they still
right.
qualify. And you guys in your lyrics have done so much of this and great wordplay and just little phrases like where Christ is in all this crisis. And I want to ask you,
Uh-huh.
do you, because I love puns, do you own up
Right.
to creating thousands of puns in your career, or do you use a different word or think of it as a different way?
Both, or and then also I could be dyslexic
Uh huh.
sometimes, in wordplay. Um, it's funny, Mike, because with my illustrations in the last 5 years, especially, I have less and less tolerance to just keep talking. Because I sometimes hear myself, I'm like, yo, I'm tired of talking. I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing myself, and it's leading to some kind of atrophy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's leading to the point of there was once upon a time where I was a great penetrating speaker, and I had to like hunker down and just be laser like and narrow focus. But in my 60s, I found like I kind of like don't give a
Uh
fuck.
huh. Do you think? Wait, do you think
So
that's
so
personal to
yeah.
you, your atrophying, or do you think that there's something like there's so much chatter in the society, and back when,
Everybody got a mic, everybody
yeah,
got a camera.
yeah,
Talking at the same time, screaming at each other.
right.
So my thing is to fall back. I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off,
no,
but
I
my
understand
thing
what
is
you're
to
saying.
fall
Like
back.
that's how you penetrate. There's so much noise out there, and most people just want to dominate the ether by chattering nonstop. You could lay back and take your shots like a sniper.
I lay back and do
Right.
illustrations. I found, and like X, formerly Twitter, has become a swamp. So I go in there with my, my lyrical hazmat, illustration hazmat suit, and I go in there just draw illustrations, and that fucks people up more than me just meandering on with text. I mean, Mike, I have a saying that, uh, textures ain't writers and scrolling ain't reading. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Somebody like, oh yeah, I'm a writer. Yeah, you're not a writer. You're a texter. Yeah, I read. No, you're not really a reader. You're a scroller. You know, so you have to kind of nail people with things that they necessarily think about. But my illustrations stop people cold because I'm ultra fast. This all started, I guess, in 2015. Oh, well, really accelerated in 2016. My dad passed. I did ayahuasca, and then I worked on speed while I had a whole bunch of hotel time being on Profit to Rage around the world. You get 4 days in a hotel
Yeah.
room. Everybody's trying to go to the town ball, to the downstairs, whatever, to just try to occupy the time. And me, I'm in my room turning into an art studio. And when I get bored of doing art, I'm writing songs. And so I had to do something with the downtime. And I said, well, what I did was work on illustration. I'm an illustrator, not a painter, not a sculptor. I do all those things. And if I concentrate on painting with oils or whatever, I could do it well. But it's not practical to carry those around as you go in city to city, state to state, country to country.
Yeah.
So I worked on illustrating at a very fast courtroom speed,
Okay, so I just want to be
and I
clarified when you
goes,
said I did ayahuasca and then I worked on speed. You don't mean you worked on amphetamines. You got faster. Is that what?
no, no. I mean, my dad passed. I wanted to know where his spirit went, and I did the ritual of ayahuasca, which kind of like really, it didn't open me up. It validated what I already had inside
Uh-huh.
me, a pregnancy of creation. And then I said, well, shit, well, hell, that's always been me. And I was told by the shaman. And I'm like, okay, that's always been me. I didn't have much scar tissue anyway inside me. I didn't have trauma. but it validated that my connection with the realms were basically coming from the pulse of what I was doing all my life
Hmm.
anyway.
Hmm.
Get back into the art, put it on paper, get away from the gadgets.
It's interesting. So I wanted just to ask.
I still use the gadgets, Mike, because I take pictures of everything I do.
Oh, do you draw? You
And
don't
then
draw from
that's
the
how I was
picture though.
able.
You draw from the memory.
Yeah, most of the time I draw from the memory, but I put it to paper. And when I do to paper, then I take a picture of the paper, and then that's uploaded to social media, and that's passed around. You couldn't do that before, Mike. Before it was like, hey, I got a little show at Roosevelt Field. You're gonna come by, and people like, yeah, yeah. You know, people ain't visiting no gallery. Only a special people that I'll come to your gallery show.
Right.
But more people you tell are like, I wouldn't. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But now what's a lot of artists who used to be kind of like, a lot of artists are shy, introverted, quiet. uh, they express through their art. They're not going to go out and sell themselves. They're just going to do their art. Now, uh, the internet, social media has given them an outlet to express themselves to many as opposed to a few. And this is what's made the art of illustration really go into this century on another level than in the past, because you had to be in serious situations like the local or the national newspapers. You had to get published. You had to have your art kind of like, put in power situations in order for a mass to see it. Um, Now it's different, and it's a beautiful outlet for artists that didn't exist
Do you
before.
think social media is more blessing than curse?
It's more tool than toy
Hmm.
if you know what to do. But like, hey, you might, you know, you got a car right at 17. You could go to work and go to school with it, and take your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever to the movies in it, or you could just do fucking stupid ass figure eights in the parking lot. What is a car, a toy or a
Right.
tool? And that's the same thing with electronics, gadgets, devices, social media, the internet. It's more tool than toy. Matter of fact, it's more tool because a lot of times right now it's weaponized against humans.
Oh yeah.
So I think as an artist though, it's a wonderful tool. I mean, it's a wonderful tool for a lot of different things. People that use it on as a toy, they probably don't get whatever's inside them outside of them or not a lot. So they get addicted to it because whatever's in that device, they're just gonna be attached to for consumption.
The name of the book is Interficial Artelligence, and it's written and drawn by Chuck D. Chuck, great to talk to you.
Mike, you're a giant, and need more of you, man.
Thanks, man.